Hey, Village, and welcome to Red Lipstick Conversations. This is the space where we unapologetically explore with boldness, tapping into passion as we seek to inspire and create. I'm your host, Tasha Ray. I want to ground this episode by beginning with this quote. For every movement to gain momentum, one must start with a small action. Adam Braun. Before I go any further, I want to take a moment to thank each and every one of you for taking time out of your day to watch or listen from whatever platform you're joining me from. Your support keeps this podcast going, and I am so thankful that you're here. Today, we are going to explore creating and harnessing momentum. Over the past few episodes, we've been peeling back the layers of what it truly means to live a fulfilled life, where purpose, passion, and joy are not just distant dreams we think about when we finally have time, but living, breathing truths we bring to the center of our lives. We've come to understand that by tweaking our perspective, adjusting how we spend our time, and by being intentional with our choices, we can lead more fulfilling lives. Okay, so now we have a plan, a goal, and have managed to hammer down a start date. You've overcome one of the biggest hurdles, which is to actually start the thing you've been putting off. You have moved from idea to action, which is no small feat. Congratulations are in order. But here's the plot twist. Once the launch is over, once the newness wears off, once the likes and encouragement slow down, once it's just you and the work, what then? The answer might seem obvious, but this is where the test of your determination begins. The solution is to keep going. Keep innovating, keep practicing, keep improving. Then before you know it, you've created momentum. What often happens is when the new factor wears off, the next wave we hit is when doubt creeps in. Distractions will suddenly pop up. Fatigue will start to take its toll. And that is where today's conversation really begins. Because in that space between starting and sustaining momentum is either gained or lost. So let's sit with this thought for a moment from Sam Silverton, author of Momentum, Achieve Maximum Impact and Influence for Your Life of Limitless Possibilities. In his book, he writes, Momentum is magnetic. People want to be with, work with, and build relationships with people who have momentum. But what is that exactly? Momentum is constant conscious movement toward your goal that is in alignment with your purpose and mission. The goal is always connected with what we are called to do in the service of others. What I appreciated about this author's approach to the concept of momentum is that the focus isn't on speed. It's the very opposite of hustle culture. It's about conscious movement. It's about forward motion that honors your why and is done in service to something greater than yourself. See, momentum that's rooted in ego, it fizzles out. Momentum rooted in service, now that's sustainable. Because when you're aligned with your purpose, when your actions are driven by the mission you believe in, it's no longer about just being motivated. It's about being anchored. Another way to think about this is you don't need motivation when you have momentum born from alignment. Motivation can be fleeting. It comes and it goes. But momentum, true soul-aligned, purpose-fueled momentum is a force that sustains. What we are talking about here is meaningful momentum. We can access this energy by being consistent with small steps, which might seem inconsequential, but with time, those small ripples can swell into powerful waves of change. I'm talking about building on the tiny decisions, on the micro habits. One email, one journal entry, one walk around the block instead of staying stuck. These are the small things that have power to swing open the doors of our lives. Remember that moment in your life when you felt like you finally had clarity? Chances are it didn't come while you were sitting still. It came from movement, even if it was messy, even if you weren't sure where it would lead. Movement, not perfection, creates clarity. And from clarity comes momentum. Momentum requires consistency, not just intensity. You don't have to go hard every single day. You just have to choose to start each day. Consistency beats intensity every time. We often think it's the big, dramatic gestures that count, but it is the everyday, quiet actions that build the strongest foundation, and that is what we want to do. Consistency builds trust, not just with others, but with ourselves. And that trust fuels your self-belief, which fuels your momentum. Momentum thrives in community. Think about this. Connecting to like-minded people On a similar path is where you can access accountability, encouragement, shared vision. These are the elements that accelerate your forward motion. Don't be afraid to say, "Hey, I need support." Don't be afraid to seek out spaces where your growth is not only encouraged, but expected. This is why I speak so much about building a village. Being able to have people in your life who see you, get you, and will remind you of who you are when life tries to make you forget truly make all the difference. And that's the goal. We are striving to make impact, not just in our lives, but in the lives of others. Momentum builds confidence. However, confidence isn't a prerequisite for momentum. The more you show up, the more you do the thing, the more you realize, wait, I'm actually doing this. Then, when you connect to your village, the thing you were once doing alone becomes, look what we are able to do together. Every action becomes evidence that you are capable, that you're committed, that you're growing. And that confidence becomes fuel to keep going. By doing the work, you are developing leadership skills. Your vision is the guiding force rather than the need to just be in charge. As we've uncovered in previous episodes, true leadership is born through service. A leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. John C. Maxwell. Let's get one thing clear. Momentum doesn't mean everything will suddenly go smoothly. You will still have setbacks. You will still have off days. You will still even feel stuck sometimes. But the difference is when you have momentum, these moments don't knock you off your course. They might slow you down, but they don't stop you because momentum gives you resilience. You've done it before. You know how to start. You have proof of progress, and you know how to begin again when needed. And that proof will carry you when motivation fades. Vivian Green put it this way: life isn't about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain. The rain here in New York has been relentless this week. And in the same way, we must learn to lean into those times of difficulty. Pushing through roadblocks, fatigue, and all the rest becomes truly doable when we are surrounded by others. Trust me, momentum doesn't happen in a vacuum. Let me share a short story I came across that might ground all these ideas and bring them to life. The story begins with a young woman who was used to moving alone. Solo runs, solo wins, solo losses, solo everything. She knew how to push through on her own, earbuds in, blocking out the world, just her and her goals. So when she signed up for the community wellness walk and got placed on a relay team with 3 other women she didn't know, she almost backed out. Almost. Because this meant coordinating, pacing, trusting, letting someone else carry the baton. But she decided to show up anyway. First came her teammate who was graceful, grounded with rhythm like breath work. Then came another member who was quiet but consistent, her steps landing with a quiet determination. Next came the firecracker of the squad. She came in hot, fire in her stride, eyes on the finish, reminding them all why they began. Each woman ran her leg with intention, but what made it beautiful wasn't the speed, wasn't even the stride. It was the connection. The handoffs became sacred. The glances between turns turned into encouragement that said, "I got you." They weren't racing alone anymore like they were used to. They were building something special together. And by the time this young lady took that final stretch, she wasn't doing it by herself. She was running on their strength under her feet. She crossed the finish line, full, eyes wide, not because she sprinted, but because she surrendered to the momentum that comes when we stop isolating and start linking arms. That village, that's the momentum through connection that I am speaking about. The journey becomes that much sweeter with connection. This is what I want for each of us. I want us to experience what it's like to begin with an idea, to then nourish and cultivate it, and finally to share it with others. I want to remind you, momentum doesn't require perfection, popularity, or permission. It just requires you to keep moving. Even if it's slow, even if it's quiet, even if no one sees it but you, because real growth, real transformation happens in those in-between moments when we decide to show up anyway. That quiet commitment you make to yourself day after day, that builds a life rooted in purpose. And don't forget, village, momentum multiplies when we do it together, when we cheer each other on, when we share resources, trade stories, and lend a shoulder to one another when it's needed. Your vision becomes that much more powerful when it's not just carried by you, but when it's supported by a community that believes in what you're building. We don't just grow alone. We can also grow through connection. And it's those bonds in those midweek check-ins, encouraging texts, shared wins, that our momentum begins to take off. Let this be your sign. Take the next small step. Share your idea. Revisit that goal that you keep thinking about. Ask for support. Breathe life back into your dreams. Because the life you're creating deserves your attention, your courage, and your commitment. You've already done the hard part by starting. Now, keep going. Don't wait for things to feel perfect or for the fear to fully vanish. Choose to push through the challenges, and with each one you conquer, you are cultivating strength. And remember, the road to impact isn't paved with ease. It's paved with intention. Each time you choose growth over comfort, each time you say yes to the call on your life, you're not just building momentum for yourself, you're opening the door for others to join you as well. Remember, someone is watching you and being reminded of what is possible by seeing what you are able to accomplish and overcome. So here's my final encouragement to you. Stay in motion. Keep choosing alignment over urgency. Keep choosing meaningful connections. Keep nourishing that dream that you have in your heart. Keep choosing yourself, even when it's hard, even when it seems like the task is insurmountable. Remember, in the quiet moments is where we often reconnect to ourselves and our purpose. So don't be afraid to unplug when you need to, because you are worthy of what you are building. And we Village are building it together. As always, I invite you to keep the conversation going. Let this episode be a conversation starter with your circle. I always enjoy hearing what you are working on. So continue to connect with me on social media and LinkedIn. I so love hearing from you. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Red Lipstick Conversations. I am your host, Tasha. Until next time, bye-bye.